What is going on, guys? Today I want to review the newest assault class weapon to make it into Battlefield 5. I'm talking about the M2 Carbine. This new weapon falls under the assault rifle category. Now, we haven't seen a new gun in this section since the Beretta came out for us way back in September of last year, so the assault rifle category has been desperately needing some attention, to say the least. However, despite it being months since we've seen a new gun in this category, it's good to know the M2 Carbine does not disappoint. If you're a fan of using your assault rifle weapons in those close quarter battles and like using weapons such as the M1907, well, the M2 Carbine may just be the gun for you. It has officially become the king of speed out of all the assault weapons with its 830 rate of fire. It has finally overthrown the M1907's 770 rate of fire, which had been leading the assault weapons in this category since the launch of Battlefield 5. So yeah, that's definitely been a while, and it's nice to see a little bit of the meta being shaken up with this new gun. Its rate of fire is so high, it would be on the upper spectrum of rate of fires for the SMGs in the medic class, so that really goes to show how impressive this stat really is. The beauty of this gun too is if you ever want to extend the range on it and be more precise with your shots, you can switch from its full auto to single shot fire mode. This will help you precisely hit targets in those mid to further range battles. This brings me now to the gun's accuracy, which is not all too bad. If you pull up its specializations and choose the ported barrel and custom stock, you end up having the second best accuracy stats, falling behind the Ravioli, which again is not all too bad coming from a gun that has an 830 rate of fire. This is another stat that begins to separate itself from the M1907, with the M1907 having the worst accuracy out of all the assault rifles available. So another reason to make you reconsider using the M1907 if that's been one of your go-to guns. Now, I do think this brings us to the big question for a gun like this having such a high rate of fire, which is how well can you control it? Is this control manageable enough where you don't just tap on the trigger and suddenly find your gun shooting right up into the air? And I have to say, despite it not having a specialization to increase its control, it actually is not all too bad. I find controlling this gun aiming down sights in full auto reasonable enough even in those mid-range battles. Now, this is still not the best out of all of the guns that are there for the assault class. It actually is one of the weakest points of this gun. It is the second worst out of all the assault rifle weapons, only narrowly beating out the M1907. However, with that said, the M1907 needs its improved control specialization equipped to even compete with the M2 Carbine, and it still has a lower rate of fire, so hopefully you can see why I think despite the M2 having not the best control, when you do compare it to the M1907, it actually doesn't look all too bad. When it comes to the gun's ammunition, it has 31 rounds before you need to reload. That is tied with the best alongside the Stormgewehr and the STG-44. So yes, it's another stat that beats out the M1907's 21 round magazine. And if that wasn't bad enough, the M2 Carbine has a quick reload specialization that even makes its reload time better than the M1907. So the M2 Carbine is looking more and more like a very promising weapon to be using if you're jumping onto the assault rifle weapons. So is that it? Have we finally found the new king of the assault rifles? Well, like with every gun, there's always a catch. There's always going to be something to keep it balanced and not make it the most OP thing on the battlefield. And this is the one stat that might keep you still using the M1907 or any of the other assault weapons, and that's its damage. It has the worst damage out of the whole category of assault rifle weapons, and puts things into perspective on why this gun has such a high rate of fire, a large clip, and a quick reload time. It's because you're going to need all the bullets you can to finish off a player. This is one of those guns where if you're not careful, you may find yourself putting 95, 99 damage on an enemy player, and is really the most significant stat in my opinion that holds this gun back from really being an extreme beast on the battlefield. Some might still point out its control being another major downside for the gun, and I do somewhat agree with that. Its control is not that great, but I do think it can be somewhat managed. It's mainly the damage that you'll feel mostly when using this gun, Because of this, you got to be careful thinking you can just go in guns blazing, those close quarter combat battles, thinking you're going to save the day because you have such a high rate of fire, because you could very much run into something like the grease gun that has almost half the rate of fire of your M2 carbine, but it has so much more power to it that you'll be wishing you had even a higher rate of fire to a gun that is already pretty fast stock. So you also got to be careful extending the range out for this gun. Yes, you'll get kills with it, but watch out for snipers and even semi-automatic rifles. Unless the enemy player is distracted and you can get the jump on them, you really want to make sure that you don't battle them one-on-one, because you might be putting several shots to their only 2 or 3 that's going to be needed to take you out. So really, as much as you can, try to get the jump on those players and catch them off guard where they don't know where you're shooting them at. Because again, if you go one-on-one against those semi-automatic rifles or any of the other sniper rifles that are out there, yeah, you're pretty much done for. But let's bring it back here and talk a little bit about the positives for this gun, because it is very interesting how this gun stands on the spectrum of weapons for Battlefield 5. It has such a high rate of fire that it can compete against the SMGs, but at the same time, it has such impressive accuracy, it still feels like a rifle. This is something that you just don't find in the SMG class. You either have a high rate of fire gun, but it struggles to extend the range out, or a low rate of fire weapon that can do a little bit better in those mid-range battles. You don't have the luxury of both worlds, something the M2 Carbine does. If you want to play close quarters, you can, but at the same time, if you want to extend the range out for the gun, you can do that as well. It's this wide spectrum for this weapon that makes it pretty unique for the assault class category. I mean, even its accuracy and rate of fire is better than the STG-44. If it wasn't for that damage, though, this would probably be the most insane gun to be used on the battlefield. When it comes to the gun's different sights, though, all of them can be utilized depending on where you want to play more. If you're more close quarter combat in nature, then you probably want to choose a 1-time. But if you want to extend the range out a bit more, then probably go with a 3-time. But like I was saying with this gun, how it allows you to play on a wide spectrum, just because it allows you doesn't mean it's going to be the best at doing this. So because of this, I found playing with the mid-range 2-time scope the most effective. If I need to go close quarters, I could, but at the same time, if I need to extend the range out, I could do that as well. But only putting myself in those positions when I knew I could win the battle. So hopefully if I caught the enemy off guard, or they were just distracted doing something else, or maybe if they were weak. The majority of my gameplay, though, was more in those mid-range battles, because I felt like that's where the sweet spot was for the gun. I still kept the full auto on as much as I could, and I felt like that was kind of the major thing to be doing. Again, only using that single shot fire mode when I'm in those far range positions, and you don't really want to be using your full auto, because that's when the control does get a little difficult to handle, and all you're going to end up doing is putting like 50 damage on an enemy player, and you're going to end up giving your spot away. So you especially don't want to be doing that if you're trying to take out maybe a sniper rifle or a semi-automatic rifle. But closing out this video, the M2 Carbine has an extremely impressive rate of fire. Its accuracy is not all too bad either, and things like its reload time and ammo capacity is something that shouldn't be overlooked in the assault rifle category. So overall, a pretty impressive gun to say the least. Once again, you get used to handling that damage output for the gun. That's what makes the gun pretty interesting, but it's nice to see something change up the meta for the assault rifle category. It's been a while since we've seen a new gun in there, and there's some impressive weapons that have been in there since launch. I mean, the STG is still a decent weapon, and I'm not sure if we'll ever see that really be overthrown as kind of the go-to gun to use in the assault rifle category. The M2 only narrowly beats it out with its accuracy, and the only thing it decisively wins at is its rate of fire, because the STG still has the exact same 31-round magazine, has better control, and its damage is significantly better. So it would be kind of interesting to see if that gun ever really gets truly overthrown in Battlefield 5. I can confidently say I do think that the M2 Carbine does beat out the M1907. I think its rate of fire, on top of it having a little bit better control, even if it's so slightly to see on the stats, I do actually think it actually makes it a superior gun, despite it having a little bit less damage. But when you compare it against the STG-44, ooh, that's a tough one. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it overthrows the STG-44 just yet, but that's just my opinion on that. You guys have to let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, but that is it for you guys today. Again, I always appreciate you guys being here. I am Livin', and I'll catch you guys again later.